Chapter Review Summary. Components and measurement of attitudes. An attitude is an evaluation of an object along a positive-negative dimension. It includes three core components: affect, emotion, cognition, thoughts and knowledge, and behavior, the tendency to approach or avoid the object. Attitudes can be measured with self-report Likert scales. Their strength or importance can be assessed with response latencies that capture attitude accessibility, how readily the attitude can become active in an individual's mind, so you respond faster if the attitude is stronger. Attitude linkage measures gauge attitude centrality, how closely an attitude is correlated to attitudes about other issues. Implicit attitude measures tap into attitudes people are unaware they have or may be unwilling to report. Predicting behavior from attitudes. It can be hard to predict behavior from attitudes because attitudes can conflict with other powerful determinants of behavior. The reasons underlying our attitudes can be difficult to pinpoint, and attitudes and behaviors may be at different levels of generality. Predicting attitudes from behavior. Behavior can have substantial effects on attitudes. Cognitive consistency theories emphasize how much people value consistency between their various attitudes and between their attitudes and behavior. Cognitive dissonance theory is based on the idea that people experience dissonance or discomfort when attitudes and behavior are inconsistent. To reduce the dissonance, people try bringing their attitudes in line with their behavior. After making a difficult choice between two objects or courses of action, people engage in dissonance reduction by finding new attractions in the chosen alternative and previously undetected flaws in the unchosen alternative. People engage in effort justification when they exert effort towards some goal and the goal turns out to be disappointing. They justify their expenditure of energy by deciding the goal is truly worthwhile. Induced forced compliance leads to a need to reduce dissonance. When induced to argue for a position at variance with their true attitudes, those who are poorly compensated feel they must justify their behavior and typically do so by changing their attitudes to align better with their behavior. Inconsistency between attitudes and behavior should produce dissonance only when there is free choice, or the illusion of it, to engage in the behavior, when there is insufficient justification for the behavior, when the behavior has negative consequences, and when the consequences were foreseeable. People can offset or reduce the negative effects of psychological inconsistency and threats to self-identity and self-esteem more generally by engaging in self-affirmation, affirming other important elements of identity, such as values. Dissonance is apparently universal, but there are cultural differences in the conditions that prompt people to experience it. The Japanese tend to experience post-decision dissonance only when asked to think about what another person would choose. Self-perception theory. Self-perception theory is based on the premise that people change their attitudes to align with their behavior because they observe their behavior and the circumstances in which it occurs and then infer, just as an observer might, what their attitudes must be. Whereas self-perception may play a role in generating the effects in some dissonance experiments, evidence indicates that there is often a motivational component as well. Self-perception appears to account for attitude change when attitudes are weak or unclear to begin with, and more motivated dissonance reduction is invoked when attitudes are more strongly held. Bodily sensations are often incorporated into people's judgments about an object or appraisal of a situation, beyond cognitive consistency to broader rationalization. According to system justification theory, people are motivated to justify the broader socio-political system of which they are a part. One way is through stereotypes that play up the advantages of belonging to relatively disadvantaged groups, such as the belief that the poor are happier than the rich. The certainty of mortality can elicit paralyzing anxiety. Terror management theory maintains that people often cope with this anxiety by striving for symbolic immortality through their offspring and through their identification with institutions and cultural worldviews that live on after their own death.